Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure I'm up. I'm seeing green and I'm seeing myself moving and shaking. So I just finished a live stream with Joe Firehouse and it's up on Real Progressives and I think it went pretty well. Somewhat feisty. Somewhat feisty. I thought it was good though. I thought it was good screen. I thought it was not screen. I thought it was a good live stream. So today, last night, Senate Republicans went through with this ghastly plan in order to redistribute further more money to the rich at the expense of everyone else. Running aside to that, and these things are going to be somewhat connected, but let's start here. In 2016, the most qualified person or the most qualified being in any reality space that had a vagina lost to a person who would have lost to a ham sandwich. Now, that person who lost to the person who was a reality show host just 10 months or a little bit more prior to Donald Trump beating the stuffing out of Hillary Clinton in November of last year, he was firing has-been celebrities from the show of The Apprentice. That is the quantity to which we're dealing with. After he beat the stuffing out of Hillary Clinton, that particular night, there were stories that she flipped out, she lost her shit, because after all, she was inevitable. She was inevitable. And nothing that throws cold water on inevitability than losing. I'm going to read something. This is from Shattered. Shattered is a book that came out in the wake of Hillary Clinton's failure, explaining what took place in the campaign, to explain that actual failure and what were the repercussions in the inside, meaning what took place, what was going on in the inside of the burning ship as the ship was burning. This is Shattered. On a phone call with a longtime friend, a couple of days after the election, Hillary was much less accepting of her defeat. She put a fine point on factors she believes cost her the presidency: the FBI, namely Comey, the KGB, the KKK, the white nationalists. "I'm angry," Hillary told her friend, and exhausted. After two brutal campaigns against Sanders and Trump, Hillary now had to explain the failure to friends in a seemingly endless round of phone calls that was taking a toll on her already weary and grief-stricken soul. But mostly, she was mad. She was mad that she lost and that the country would have to endure a Donald Trump presidency. Let's be honest, she was mad that she lost. The second part didn't apply. In other calls with advisors and political surrogates in the days after the election, Hillary declined to take responsibility for her own loss. She's not being particularly self-reflective, one longtime ally who was on the calls with her shortly after the election. Instead, Hillary kept pointing her fingers at Comey and Russia. She wants to make sure that all these narratives get spun the right way, the person said. The strategy had been set 24 hours after her concession speech. Mook and Podesta assembled her communications team at the Brooklyn headquarters to engineer the case that the election wasn't entirely on the up and up for a couple of hours, with Shake Shack containers littering the room. They went over the script that would pitch to the press and the public. Already, Russian hacking was at the centerpiece of that argument. In Brooklyn, her team coalesced around the idea that Russian hacking was a major underreported story of the campaign, overshadowed by the contents of the stolen emails in Hillary's own private server in Brogo. They all decided to hammer the media for focusing so intently on the investigation into her email, which created a cloud over her candidacy. The press botched the email story for 18 months, said one person who was in the room. Comey obviously screwed us, but the press created the story. Understand what's being said here. You have a candidate who failed miserably against reality shows, lost almost the entirety of the United States. If you look at the map, Hillary Clinton The biggest difference, the 3 million votes that Hillary Clinton got, came from California. They came from California. She got the stuffing beat out of her almost everywhere else. That woman who was supposedly inevitable, that woman who cheated the socialists in the campaign in order to exceed to the primaries, in order to exceed from the primaries, only to lose in the main contest to a maniac. That person gets sick and tired of people calling her, asking her, why did you lose? How did you lose? How did you lose to reality show host? I'm sorry you lost to a reality show host. It pains me that you lost to reality show host. Oh man, it must burn that you lost to reality show host. When are you going to get back on your feet after losing to reality show host? You can imagine if you get these calls, incessant calls, over and over and over again, one after the other, explaining and hitting at you why you lost to reality shows and telling you that you can cry on their shoulder because you lost to reality shows. If your name is Hillary Clinton, you're getting a little pissed off at this. And you come to the conclusion that, look, my name is Hillary Clinton and I'm fucking blameless. And the problem in this wasn't me. I, after all, was blameless. That's the first rule. It was everybody else. It was Russia. It was Comey. To some degree, it was Obama. It was like, goddamn Bernie Sanders. It was all of these things. It was James Comey. It was the weather that particular day. It was the sun that was in Tom, the voter's eyes. It was all of these things that went on. All of these things that went on. How dare the media bring up the fact that I was under an FBI criminal investigation for a year? How sexist of them to bring that up. How sexist of them to mention that I might be put in federal prison. It's fucking amazing. But this was the logic. This was the argument that was made. And the press being somewhat in the tank for Hillary in many respects. In many WikiLeaks documents, you can see where there was a collusion between the press and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Some of these guys even sending them stories to make sure that the stories were okay. In this collusion, you had a media jump on this idea that Russia, to some degree, colluded with the Trump administration to attack and tank Hillary Clinton. They didn't need evidence. They didn't need evidence. From the Democratic side of things, you had Democrats, not these people with integrity, just Democrats. They've been told for the past X number of months that Hillary Clinton was inevitable. Huffington Post had Hillary Clinton winning by 98% on the night that she lost magnificently. You can understand it if your person, your world was shattered. I don't understand. How could my paradigm of the world be so wrong? How could what I believe in be so skewed and be so off? Well, it can't be that. It can't be that my paradigm was off. It can't be that I didn't understand what the world was. It can't be that I was looking through this world fundamentally through a faulted lens of the Democratic Party. No. Hillary Clinton is right. The media is right. Russia cheated us. It had to be Russia. My illusions of the world has to be intact. It had to be Russia. It had to be some foreign agent that reached in and ripped the drawers off Lady Liberty. That's what took place. So the Hillbots, the Democrats, these people for the most part are biased, and these people look at this and looking for any excuse whatsoever they can use to explain why the most qualified candidate with a vagina that ever get into the presidential election failed so miserably against a maniac. For the media standpoint, they look at this story as just purely a story of monetization. Hey, we got a decent story about the president of the United States colluding with a foreign power. Put asses in seats. Who gives a shit about reality? Asses in seats. We have a financial model that we ourselves need to deal with, meaning we have to keep the lights on. Hey, how do we keep the lights on? Let's go with a story about the president colluding with a foreign power in order to steal the presidency. Monetize reality. Monetize reality. It doesn't matter that there's not much reality to it. It doesn't matter that there's other evidence challenging the narrative of events. The Democratic Party screamed at the top of their lungs. They jumped on the bandwagon. And essentially you have these two factors within your society that have a fiscal and a political reason to go with a particular narrative, even when that narrative doesn't necessarily jive with reality, or they don't have evidence to back up the narrative that they've been putting forth for the past, 12 months. It is sad and it's pathetic. And it's positioned us in a way that's antagonistic towards another country that has nuclear weapons. They're red baiting. This, just to make one final point on it, the red baiting is not purely there just from the standpoint of Trump. The red baiting is also there to constrain the left. Back during the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, at least after World War II, part of the power of this idea of red baiting campaign, this McCarthyism, this idea of the Soviet Union coming to get us and taking over all these territories and everything else, and we're freedom and democracy and they're something else. Part of the reason for that, at the very, whether it was intentional or not, eventually came around to this idea of constraining the left. The conversation, the layers of debate were constrained to this thing of the definitive left, in this case is the Democratic Party, and anything beyond that looks a little communist to us. It looks a little socialist to us. So yes, at that point the Democratic Party could say we are the definitive left. There's not much past us, and you don't even need to look past us because Soviet Union is our enemy, and if you're going too far to the left, you're looking like a commie. Constrain debate. When you had situations like Eugene Debs getting put in prison for standing up for the anti-war thing, going back to near Woodrow Wilson. FDR, part of the reason FDR did that had to do with the pressure that was coming from his left. What happens when the pressure from the unions or pressure from the socialists or some of these other leftist organizations during that time, what happens when that pressure goes away? And the Democratic Party is left as a definitive left. And this red baiting and the red scares were able to essentially destroy the movements and the leftist edifices in the country itself, making them purely reliant on the Democratic Party to be the actual left. What happens when that party no longer represents the actual left? What happens when you have a socialist that's out running amok in the country? What happens when you have half of the kids, the millennials, looking at the socialists saying, hey, I like a little some of that. That looks awesome to me. What does the Democratic Party do when the Democratic Party is no longer considered the left in the United States? I do not think by any means that it's random that they're using this red baiting thing. I think part of the strategy is also to somehow tar the left. That's why you have Democrats saying, hey, you know, Black Lives Matter was being influenced by Russia. Black Lives Matter was being influenced by Russia. You know, those people at Standing Rock, they were also being influenced by Russia. This is not, you know, this is not random in this way. This is politics. It's the same reason why they're talking about age in regards to Bernie Sanders. Hey, we need to find somebody who's a decent age. It's politics. This is a political war of sorts. The Democratic Party is fighting a war on two fronts, the left and the right. That's not a war they should win. Look, my point in the story, the media, from their point on this, have jumped on a bandwagon and have stuck with the bandwagon for 12 months. And in 12 months, they've shown nothing to legitimize the 12 months that they've spent telling the public this stuff that is most likely not necessarily true. This is ABC News in their rush to judgment, going with this idea of Russia and Trump, and with their glee at the Mueller investigation, and with each and every little thing that pops out of this investigation. One of the things that popped out was Michael Flynn went for a plea deal. ABC News, in their rush to jump the gun, in the same way they jumped the gun on the Russian store in the first place for this idea of monetizing or for profit, ABC News put out a story that was perfectly false. They put out fake news. And then in putting out fake news, they put out a retraction on Twitter with the fake news that they put on national television. During a live special report, ABC News reported that a confidant of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn said that Flynn was prepared to testify that the candidate Donald Trump instructed him to contact Russian officials during the campaign. That source later clarified that during the campaign, Trump assigned Flynn and a small circle of other senior advisors to find a way to repair relations with Russia and other hotspots. It was shortly after the election that President-elect Trump directed Flynn to contact Russian officials on the topics that included working jointly with ISIS. During a live special report, ABC News reported that a confidant of General Michael Flynn said Flynn was prepared to testify that then candidate Donald Trump instructed him to make contact Russian officials during the campaign. They put out a story on nightly air, on the airways, to a bunch of people who are craving to hear more about Trump and Russia, at least people on Democrats. That he was prepared, that he wanted Flynn to contact Russians. And later on it's, oh yeah, by the we fucked that up. Actually, what Trump wanted to do was to find some way to work with Russia in order to calm down hot-button issues around the globe and to repair relations with that government. That's a big fucking difference. That is a major fucking difference between those two things. The first one fulfills other people's illusions on this idea of Trump and Russia, that after 12 months, they finally found something to hang their hat on. The second one explains, no, you still haven't found anything to hang your hat on this Trump and Russia thing. And ultimately, what you did find was that the president of the United States wanted to find a way to make peace or to come to some kind of deal or resolution to work with what the other administrations was considering an enemy. You have one job. You have one job. Your news is in your name. ABC News. Is this fake news or not? This sounds like fake news to me. It sounds like you put a story on the airwaves that was patently false in order to give this impression that didn't actually exist. So if you have news in your name, A, is Twitter going to start banning you for putting out fake news and propaganda? That's the first one. Is Google going to start shadow banning ABC News for, again, putting out fake news? Something that either they knew that was false or they were completely incompetent in regards to what their job was. You have one job. Give the news. And you fuck it up. You fuck it up. I don't think you fucked it up because you wanted to fuck it up. I don't even know if you fucked it up because you were trying to get across this idea of lying in the first place. I think you fucked it up because to you, this is a financial story. The goal of this is to get the story out as fast as you can possibly get it out. And this idea of Trump and Russia and spending 12 months spinning your wheels and trying to find some link between these two things. And the moment that you think you find a link, it's like, oh, we got to get this out. We got to get this out. We got to get this out. Oh, sorry. We fucked up. We fucked up. We don't know what we're doing. Yes, we have news in our name, but you can't hold us to that. That's supposed to be in quotes. Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. I want to hear what everyone thinks on this. Personally, I think this is them monetizing reality, and because reality is monetized, they want to get the story out, and because they're rushing to get the story out, they're fucking up. They're fucking up. They've bet so much on this farm of Trump and Russia that now they had this, oh, Flynn gets locked up. Flynn is going to get locked up. And then you find out, oh, he was commissioned to actually try to make peace. That's fucking amazing. ABC News my ass. ABC News my ass. What does everybody have to say? This one isn't going to be too long. I saw this story and it was like, what the hell? Daniel Uko. What's happening, Daniel Uko? Deminji, I paid good money to see that tantrum. Robert Puke Ray. Hillary must be smoking some shatter to make her bullshit make sense. Deminji, I would have paid a lot of good money to see that tantrum. To the election night thing, there has to be a camera somewhere. There has to be a camera somewhere. That has to be fucking amazing. Jeremy Shellman. When I'm sad, I always work on spinning my narrative. It helps. It does help. It does help. I love that. Oh, I'm angry. I need to make a narrative where I have no blame in this at all. I have no blame in this. I love how these guys, when they write their books, they're blameless in their books. Donna Brazil, blameless. I am a dandelion in the sea of corruption. I had no idea they had gambling in this establishment. Oh my God. Oh my God. Didn't know they had gambling in this place. I just walked in. Didn't know that guy was over there snorting coke. This is not something that's normally here. Better to be pissed off than pissed on. Well, it depends, Bob. If that's, you know, it depends if that's your thing. Some people love to be pissed on. That's their, yeah. I'm not gonna shame people because of their sexual proclivities. Robert Pouquet Ray, but Flynn can't be a Bernie bro. You call Flynn a Bernie bro. Has Jamal joined the MMT? Just print me some money. Caught now? No, I haven't, Bob. I haven't. I am still just me. Jeremy Popisky. I do enjoy talking to what's his name though. I like Joe Firestone. I don't have to be aboard of the thing just to talk to him, but I like Joe. Jeremy Popoliski. Keystrokes. Yes, keystrokes. Just print money. Mark P. IT people tried to empower themselves and others through a socialist software infrastructure, i.e. Linux and open source movement. Capitalists used it and not the people. Google, Amazon, etc. Yeah, I think what you're saying is, if this idea that you could just print money, how do you know that money is going to be printed for your own benefit? It's a fair point. It's a fair point. Yeah, fair point. Thing is, though, I would imagine if you get to the point, let's take MMT off off the side for the moment. What's his name? One of the things Firestone and I talked about today. Firestone, you know, he has a PhD in political science, and he was making this argument about putting in a clause into the, what is it called? Into the funding things, into the funding mechanisms that the government use, the bills, the funding bills. Kind of making this point that, you know, putting in the clause to say this is going to be paid off, not necessarily purely in an MMT way. It's an interesting conversation. I would say listen to the conversation, but no, I'm in nobody's camp. I'm just me. I don't have this ideological bend in this way. To me, none of this stuff is real, so it doesn't matter. I don't care what the argument that you use to make the determination on how you feed and clothe and making sure people have the things they need. These things are just arguments to get to a means to an end. None of it's real. Robert Pouquet, joint with ISIS. Wasn't it the CIA who gave Osama bin Laden his Disney collection? That's funny. You know, the funny part is the joint with ISIS. Saudi Arabia is one of the largest state sponsors of terror in that region of the world. The United States was supporting terrorists that was helping undermine the Syrian government. You understand that those people, those terrorists that was trying to undermine the Syrian government, was working with ISIS in this way. So it's funny that the United States is saying, you know, we're going to work with them to get rid of ISIS. Now, Trump did stop funding terrorists. He did stop funding terrorists. So if he was trying to stop him working with ISIS, and part of stopping working with ISIS was funding the terrorists who were essentially also working with ISIS. This stuff is weird. But look, all things being equal, I would prefer to work with Russia than to be against them. I don't necessarily understand this thing of continuously trying to prop up this kind of Cold War mentality on things. If this is true, then this guy was on the side of the angels, at least in this very particular capacity. At least in this very specific capacity. And AB News fucked that story up royally. They screwed that story up royally. Richard Russ, if it was only that they wanted to get the news first, there would be a lot more stories, not only the ones, not to get certain stories out first, those that promote the establishment. Rich Russ, you're right. Yeah, I agree. But keep in mind, the news is not this independent functioner in the society in this way. The news, for the most part, runs on this basis of profit. They're looking at this stuff from a profitable standpoint, with the caveat being that the stories that they're going to put out is no way going to adversely affect the power structures that they depend on. That's the catch. Your rounds of debate, or your rounds of, or your boundaries of conversation, still boil down to cash. It still boils down to people trying to advantage themselves magnificently. The style useless info. Sorry, texting and driving. They style useless info. Yeah, agreed, Augur. Agreed. And Augur, don't die. Don't die just to be on the live stream. Don't do that. I don't know what I'd do if I don't have you criticizing me. Bob Ramirez, money is real. All money, paper or otherwise, is a stack of IOUs. This is how we move from hunter-gatherer to agriculture and civilization. I'm sorry, money is not real. In no way can you eat cash. In no way can you eat cash. These are just perceptual items. Even if you're on the gold standard, ultimately you're just and this perceptual item that you're giving this particular thing value. You can arrange yourself in other ways. You understand that like 99% of human history had nothing to do with cash. Jerry Shellman, that's sad things. 20 people are watching. Jamal, tell me the truth on Saturday night. How many people only saw that live from ABC? Well, Jeremy, I have 44 people that I'm looking at now. So now, take them out. How you like them apples? Shellman, this is not by accident. I don't think it's by accident, only because whether it was intentionally an accident or whether they were putting it out to prop up this Russian narrative, either way, it doesn't matter. It's still a fuck up. It's a royal fuck up. Like this thing of for instance, you could say, look, rushing a story to print because you think that story is more profitable than some other story, and you think that other news agencies are going to get the story out also. You could say that the fuck up was somehow driven by the profit motive in regards to the story. So yeah, either way you want to cut it. Whether you want to say it's not by accident in that way, because if you were being a little bit more careful, you would have caught it. Or if you were saying they don't necessarily care when they put that story out in the first place, they just wanted to get the story out. Or you can be a little bit more cynical, saying they wanted to hit Trump in the knees regardless, and they didn't necessarily care about the truth in doing it. I agree, some of those things are worse than others, but all of those things are bad. All of those things are bad. And I have to be honest, I'm not even certain if the being intentionally doing it is worse than the fuck up. I'm not sure which is worse. I'm really not. Mark P. Money is a point system to share out collective production. If it results in falling production because less infrastructure education happens and is suboptimal. Mark P., I can agree with you with that. It's like trying to find some way of organizing the way goods and services are distributed in your society. But the problem of it is people get in their heads that the money is an end unto itself. That the goal of the money in this case is to move stuff around in your society, not for people to just accrue it and put it in a box somewhere. It's fucking insane. August Hapman, oh, how sweet. Let the beatings begin. Kicking it with my dog. Oh, hi, Mark. What's happening? Kicking it with my dog. You're a newbie. I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Welcome to the soapbox. Let's see. What concentration did Firestone study in political science? Do you know? He told me. I do not remember what it was. He told me I don't remember what it was. His knowledge of that stuff is expansive. It is immensely expansive. This was fascinating. Yeah, it's immensely expansive, man. It's fascinating. He has this idea on putting clauses in the budget in order to essentially to pay off the budget without necessarily, I'm trying to explain the best way to say that. This is the part I agree with for MMT, or in this case he would make the case, well, this is not technically MMT, but whatever. It's still coming from the same family. This is the part I would agree with. The United States is sovereign currency. That's just a flat fact. Congress has the authority to deal with the debt and issues concerning the debt. Again, that's somewhat of just a flat fact. When you get into this thing of arguments over what Congress can do, that's where it gets interesting. It's like, what are the powers of Congress in this regard? And what are the out-of-the-box ways to deal with some of the issues that come up? That part, I'm fascinated by. I'm fascinated by that part because, from my standpoint, none of this is real. Like, all of these things are perceptual things that we wrap ourselves in. And we tell ourselves that these things are completely real. They are not. They're not. These things are perceptual. These things are illusions that we cover ourselves in. And we come up with ways to try to say, okay, how are we going to, let's make an agreement on a system that we can exchange goods and services, et cetera, et cetera. And what we've ended up making was a system or tool that would allow the rich to accrue more and more resources at the expense of everybody else. Convincing people that playing around or playing with the rules in the game set that the way it is somehow good for them, is somehow free, while at the same time making those people work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, screaming about their freedom while they're working in the job that they despise on this hamster wheel, while other people advantage themselves magnificently well at that expense. Created a Ponzi scheme. This isn't real. This is a systemic, this is a Ponzi scheme. You can have whatever system you want, providing that system is stable and providing that system is sustainable. That's the truth of the matter. The capitalistic system, as the way it is, eats itself. Now, if what I care about and what politics, for the most part, is, boils down to arguments. That's what politics is. So you have a game space, all right? Fair enough. What are the limits and extent to the things that you can do within that game space to affect the thing that you yourself want to accomplish? Republicans came up with an argument of, hey, if we give the rich a ton of cash, if we give them a ton of cash, every so often as they drink and eat that cash, they will piss out dollars and pennies. And you can take those dollars and pennies and you can put them in your bank accounts. And it is a win-win scenario. They get billions of dollars, you get 3 or 4 cents. Isn't this a great world? And aren't you glad to be an American, to be in a system where you can give all those people so much at your expense? They made this argument. The public bought this argument. This is a dumb-ass argument. The public bought this argument. Mind you, there was no reality to it. It was an argument. Now, it became somewhat of a reality from the standpoint of the game space in politics because Democrats agreed with the argument. And Democrats played on a playing field that essentially this argument was part of the process to varying degrees. They didn't agree with the argument from the standpoint that maybe at the craven way that the Republicans did. But so what? They still agreed with the terrain that they were fighting on, even if they disagree with it at a minor level. Where Obama comes in and says, takes 80% of those Bush tax cuts and puts those things into law. Now, tell me how Democrats disagree with the logic of trickle-down economics when they were willing to do the exact same thing when they got into that office. They agree with the game space the way it is. I would say the part that I agree with is changing the realm of debate, changing the hegemonic view of finance. Just make your argument. I got to be honest. I don't necessarily care about, I don't necessarily have this big thing of things have to be this way or that way. Just make your argument. Make your argument. I have X, Y, Z of things that I want to accomplish. Get rid of poverty, get rid of, make sure everyone has food, make sure we deal with the planet as the way that planet is, make sure resources get to the people who need those resources, change the way life is. I'm not in any camp in this regard, but I am in the camp of create the argument that allows you to make that take place. There's no reality to any of this stuff, so it doesn't matter. Just make your argument. Once you get the public, or once you get this change in the view of the way the world needs to work or the way the world can work, it just follows on its own. The view itself leads itself, if that makes sense. It's almost like the public just needs you to make an explanation of why XYZ needed to take place. In the same way that the rich can make this thing of trickle-down economics, this was the thing that the rich used in order to justify giving them more cash. Well, the same thing works on both sides. Works on both sides. Clinton Foundation was paid $145 million for the Iranian 1 deal, and that's a bad thing, but money ain't real. You can't have it both ways. No, you miss what I mean. Money isn't real from a larger context. If this planet was hit by an asteroid, it gets the unreality of the situation as it is. There is no place where I can go and physically put my hand on the government. These things are perceptual items. Just because they're perceptual items doesn't mean it doesn't affect you in a way. You are functioning within a game space. Clinton get $145 million buys her influence. It buys her influence because she agrees that the $145 million is value. Agreement, to some degree, makes it real. But if you're talking about the reality of it, a real reality of it, there is no real reality to it. Money and a human being are two different things. Two different things. I'm saying realness from the standpoint of not just a perceptual tool or perceptual gimmick. I'm talking about, tangible. We know what the Republican and the Libertarian argument is. You're a communist and you are taking away my money. Yeah, kick it with my dog. Yeah. Look, I've kind of had this argument with Joe too, like saying, dude, you would never get this through politics. Like it's the politics of it. People have gone their entire lives with this idea of their understanding of what money and finance is. That's a fight, man. That's a fight. Yeah, the first thing they're going to say is you're a communist, you're going to increase inflation, you're going to raise the debt, etc., etc., etc. the Senate, the Republicans right now are going to turn around and say, now that we've passed this, and look at how big the debt is, now we need to cut services, meaning we need to go after Medicare and Social Security. I know why. The reason why I brought up the Republican thing in the first place, they've screamed about Russia. They've screamed about it at the top of their lungs for the past 12 months. And while they were screaming about Russia, the Republicans was like, all right, let's cut services. Let's give ourselves more cash. Let's give ourselves more cash. It's fucking amazing. Tomosi Young, Hillary Clinton won't be indicted. Her corruption ran too wide and too deep. Fuck the DNC. Fuck HRC. Rich Russ, it comes down to this. What is more important, money or the survival of humans? Rich Russ, yes. That's my point. One has value, the other doesn't. One is real, the other is not. That's my point. That's my point. And even if you want to say money is real, certainly is not as real and not as important as the human being and the environment itself. So yeah, I agree, Rich. But I think I'm being too intangible with this. I'm looking at this purely from the standpoint of one is conceptual and one is actual physical matter reality. That's what I'm getting at. You can make this philosophical thing of, yeah, but is a human being also a real thing? Is a human being, etc., etc. At the end of the day, one feels the other is created. The other's just created. It's a figment of your imagination. I am for slicing some fat of Stephen Clawback's ass and feeding it to the poor. Yes. Yes. Don't get cancer eating it. Dax Jacobson, Rich Russ. If you ask most Americans, the answer is money. The answer is money. Dax, unfortunately, you were right. Hey, you. And that's sad, Dax, by the way. That's sad. That's immensely sad. That's immensely sad commentary on the public. Like, the public will say people. They would say people if you ask them. But they function in a way that ultimately says money. How they function, how they act is a little bit different than the things that they say. They would say something different because they understand intuitively that it sounds immensely bad to say that somebody else's profit is worth more than that human being. But in every way that human beings function, money is at the top of their list. Yeah, Dax, you're right. It's sad. Hey, you, hi. I wouldn't bet on having access to an intangible asset such as money if shift, hypothetically speaking. What? I wouldn't bet on having access to an intangible asset such as money if shit, hypothetically, if shit hits the fan. Oh, if shit hits the fan. Ah, got the acronym. Good. Yeah, I wouldn't bet on having access to intangible assets such as money if shit hits the fan, hypothetically speaking. God known. Trump was told to replace Flynn, and he did. Who told him that? Gardner. Who told Trump to do that? Who told him Trump? Who told him? Who told him Gardner? People have been convinced that they need to earn money. Biggest mindfuck of all time. Agreed, Distilly. August, Tomosi Young, styling capitalism as cancer is silly. Capitalism is cholesterol that I'll give you, but you need cholesterol to live. Capitalism is not like capitalism is not like cholesterol. No, it's more like cancer. Agreed, it's more like cancer. It's not something that you need to live. I have no idea why you think you need it to live. Over 90% of the cultures on this planet lived without capitalism. You don't need capitalism to live. That's made out of whole cloth. And yes, it's like a cancer. It is like a cancer. You have this system that says maximize your profit, and everything else becomes subordinate to maximizing your profit, meaning human beings themselves become subordinate. Yeah, it's a cancer. What do cancer cells do? They grow. They expand. They don't necessarily pay attention to the rules that are around in the society itself or the system to which they're in. Their goal is to grow and expand indefinitely. That is literally cancer. That's literally cancer. So yes, Augur, it's cancer. Tomosi Young. To the top 1%, it's fuck all y'all while I get mine. Yes, that's the capitalistic way. They get capitalists. Kicking in with my dog. How do you get past the initial you're a communist argument in a fast-paced debate? I would say own it. I'd say own it. Don't run from it. Own it. You think I'm a communist? Look, that's if you're calling somebody a communist, I would argue you've already lost the debate. That sounds fucking ridiculous. But so what? You can call me whatever you want. Ultimately, what am I saying? Is what I'm saying right? And if what I'm saying is right, I make my argument like everybody else. Calling somebody a communist is just a way of trying to tie them to certain ideas and everything else. I would not let that deter you in an argument. What do you call capitalism that's out of control? I call that cancer. Yes, Barbara Ramirez said, they took our jobs, damn good backs. Go back to the future. I know, right? Tomosi Young, help me sugarcoat it. This ain't help me sugarcoat it. Look, I would say, in any conversation about society and everything else, communism or whatever, I would say you try to, you get people to understand that their world can be whatever their world, whatever they want their world to be. There's nothing stopping their world to be one or the other. And you make this case about what are the penalties, meaning you can have any society you want, providing you're willing to deal with the consequences of that society. I don't care what you call the society. What are the consequences of the society that you find yourself? You weighing American society or capitalistic society in general, and you started tallying up all of the fuck-ups and the cringe moments, the things that we allow. People are accustomed to the way their world is, regardless of what that society is. And because they get accustomed to it, they think anything else is somehow lesser than or weaker than and everything else. Any society would do that. If this capitalistic model failed, when they started bringing out the demons and the skeletons in the closet 30, 40 years, they would look back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe we lived in that. Can't believe we lived that way. So it's not necessarily necessary. And like I said, you can have any society you want. Whatever you want. What are you willing to live with? What are you willing to live with? Our society is literally in collapse. Our ecosystem is literally in collapse. And they're still kind of got this drill, baby drill, and keep it moving the way it is. And massive, historic income inequality. These guys are out there giving $1.5 trillion to the top 1%. This is your capitalistic hellscape. This is your capitalistic hellscape. I don't care if somebody calls me a communist. I don't care what they call me in this case. The argument I make is from a humanistic perspective. Human beings are real. Your world is real. You can arrange it any way you want. D. Scully, talking about economics instead of politics and government is bringing a spoon to a knife fight. None of it is relevant. No, they're interrelated. I don't think you can have one without the other. Like there is no system of government that doesn't include economics. How are you going to fund your government? They're interrelated. You can't talk about one. You can't. They're not irrespective of one another. That's my point. BB Hammer, Dax Jacobs. I have to rewatch the whole thing. Just watched the clip today. I had a crazy artist friend who was obsessed with that movie. He doesn't seem so crazy now. Richard Russ, you say we're in collapse, yet we could easily feed and house every human being on earth. Yes, Richard, that's true. But I say we're in collapse because of the way we're organized. We could do those things. We don't do those things. There's a massive difference in those things. The overwhelming majority of the people on the planet, live off like $10 a day? Something insane, some insane minor number. Like you have all these people in poverty, like billions of people who don't have ends. That's not because we can't afford to do it. That's not because we don't have the resources to do it. That's not because we don't have the technology to do it. That's because we decide not to do it based on our own failing economic system. That's the difference. I agree with you. We can do those things. We can do those things. I'm saying it's how we have this stuff arranged right now currently. It's a problem. Like, for example, you look at the way automation is going to affect American society. Think of all the cab drivers. Let's take cabbies. Google Alphabet in a lawsuit. They're trying to make this determination on automated cars. Do you believe that Uber, a profit-making enterprise, or Google, another profit-making enterprise, will keep taxi cabs around, taxi drivers? When they have an automated car, they can go from point A to point B. It's not going to bitch about it. It's not going to charge them extra. And ultimately, at the end of the process, they get to maximize their profit. They get to suck all that profit up that they were paying those drivers. Those drivers are going to lose their jobs. Not just, Google, Uber, Lyft. Taxi cab drivers, they're going to lose their jobs. What about these service jobs? 7-Eleven, Amazon. Amazon is taking over some of these stores, opening their own chain of stores that allows people to walk in and out without having the cashier in the store. What about delivery? Amazon delivery, having this stuff being delivered to the door. You think other supermarkets are going to just remain supermarkets? They're going to change their strategy to also allow groceries to be shipped to the house. 10, 20 years. Grocery stores are going to be somewhat of a thing of the past. That's my prediction. I can't prove that. But I would wager at the trend that the way things are going is going to become more and more diffuse in the way technology intrudes into our lives. And you're going to need less and less of a human element. Understand we have the capacity to make sure everyone have the things that they need on this planet. But do you think our economic system, the way our current economic system is arranged right now, the way our current political system is arranged right now, do you think any of those things are capable of dealing with that reality when millions and millions and millions of people lose jobs? And there is no way jobs are being created fast enough to accommodate those people, let alone the jobs that are exported abroad, because it makes them more additional cash when they can ship those things to the top. The issue here, Rich, is not whether we have the capacity to do it. The issue is the political will, A, and the way the public views itself, B. Your public would need to have this understanding of what it means to be a human being. A basic, bare level, integrity-driven idea of human beings have a particular value. And as a society, we're going to make sure that value is espoused in the laws and the policies that we take on. Until human beings, people, see themselves in a particular light, saying there's a basic level that we're not going to allow people to go in our society, period. From person to person, understanding there's a basic level we're not going to allow people to go in our society. Until people get to that point, and until your political apparatus gets to the point where it realizes, okay, this is changing. Our technological view of the world and the things that technologically allows is fundamentally changing our world. This issue is perceptual. This issue is not a technical issue. This is a perceptual issue. And for example, I'll give you another example before moving on. Obamacare, Trumpcare. Both of those things were ideologically driven solutions to a problem. The problem is a technical problem. Most of these problems are technical. How do you provide health care for each and every person in the United States at the lowest cost? That's a technical issue. That's an issue that's data-driven or driven by science and everything else. Do you honestly believe that Romney Care, the plan that was created by the Heritage Foundation, Republican plan essentially, was created in a way that tried to solve this thing of how do we put people first with regards to health care? It was the opposite. How do we keep markets into the healthcare system? They asked the question in a completely different way. It wasn't asked from the standpoint of the human being. It wasn't asked from a humanistic perspective. It was asked purely from how do we keep markets into healthcare? Yeah, I know human beings, but how do we keep markets into healthcare? How do we allow them to continue to make their profits? And Obama and the Democrats came up with this utopian vision of a market-friendly solution to healthcare, thinking that it's going to be a win-win, and they chest thumped at the end of X number of years when Obamacare was still into effect. What about now? You have rates going through the roof in one state after the next. Rates are exploding. And understand, you can say, well, Republicans did this and Republicans did that. Why are Republicans having the chance to do it in the first place? Be mad at Trump. I get it. He's a fucking goblin. But understand why you're getting Trump into this position in the first place. 8 years. 8 years. And after those 8 years, they went to a goblin. And at no point does the Democratic Party ask itself, why on earth would they choose this maniac over this perfectly nice woman? Why are they choosing this maniac? The policies that you're getting right now are a direct result of the failures of what's considered the left in this country, the Democratic Party. They offer no solutions. People's lives got more difficult, and those people wanted radical change. You cheated the guy on the left who was going to give radical change because the last thing you wanted is that guy to give radical change from the left. You understood that getting a Republican in office maintains you as an edifice, meaning the Democratic Party. Having a lefty redefine what it means to be a Democrat completely obliterates New Deal Democrats in the United States, or neoliberal Democrats in the United States, in the same way it did in Britain. They would rather Bernie Sanders lose and Trump to win than Bernie Sanders getting in that office. August Sabinar, technology like money doesn't change squat. It just unmasks and amplifies hidden flaws. How long did it take you to walk to work today? How long did it take you to walk to work today? When they dropped the nuclear bomb on Japan, was that nuclear bomb like any other bombs that we had dropped prior to this? When they flew over doing air raids, was the plane getting from Chicago, from California, how long does that take now versus how long did that take in the 1200s? Technology is magnificently changed. Is a magnificent change in society. It's a huge change. Hillary Clinton is a wise and caring woman. Bernie Sanders and his supporters robbed this country of a great leader. When I kind of made this point that when Michael Flynn testified, Michael Flynn has this video where he's screaming, "Lock her up! Lock her up! Damn right, lock her up! There's nothing wrong with that." Like, there's this awesome video where he's screaming, "Lock her up!" This red menace, this red meat thing, throwing red meat to the crowd, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Lock her up," and looking real smug and satisfied with himself as he says it. It's not that I disagree with the sentiment. I disagree with the form. Like, Republicans are just as big as crooks as Hillary Clinton. And this guy is standing up there telling us to lock her up, and these people are angry and everything else. And I know my reasons why I say Hillary Clinton should be locked up. I don't know theirs. And I strongly suspect a lot of those things are just political witch hunts in this case, which I am completely against. I'm completely against political witch hunts. Yes, go after corruption like nobody's business. But I don't want them doing it with this political edge. I don't like it against Donald Trump. I don't like it against Hillary Clinton. I don't like either. I don't like either in this regard. If you're going to go after them for real reasons. And then for him to be, giving testimony saying, "Okay, yes, Judge, I did it. I pleaded guilty." And so it's like this guy who's screaming, lock her up, is now going to be locked up himself. It's just a little funny. Funny is not the right word for it, but you know what I mean. It's schadenfreude. Schadenfreude for them. I have no feelings about it. It's more funny to me just from the comical standpoint of eating his words. I made this point that Hillary Clinton supporters, the only thing that would have made that day better, just seeing Michael Flynn there talking about, "Yes, I did it. I'm guilty," that type of thing, would have been for them to be putting Bernie Sanders in prison right beside her. It's like, "Bernie Sanders, destroy this country. You guys, you don't deserve Hillary Clinton, guys. You don't deserve Hillary Clinton." Yeah, all this weird stuff. Hillary supporters. I imagine Peter Dowd touched himself when that guy got locked up. I think Peter Dowd touched himself inappropriately. August Sabinar, where are all the anti-war protests? Was the 1% protest after the night while Trump did and talked to populists? Of course he lied, but he talked about stuff that mattered. Agreed. Yeah, he did talk about stuff that mattered. And yes, that's a good question. Where are the anti-war protests? Tomosa Young, JT, the position here might cause you to lean left, not a good posture. Yeah, it does. My wife, my loving wife, Mrs. Thomas, she's getting me a mic for Christmas. It makes me lean forward, so it's a weird position. I'm always afraid that people can't hear me if I just stand up and do this, so I tend to lean. Yes, it's not a good posture. And Tomosa Young, I appreciate you talking about my posture. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, Buscema, I know it was sarcasm. It was dripping off the page. I know. I don't think you believe it. I don't think you believe it. Why would you say that, Keith Williams? What did Keith Williams say? Dom, sarcasm? Yeah, of course it's sarcasm. You're correct, Augur. Jamal didn't get your point, I think. Yeah, let's see. What was your point? Technology, like money, doesn't change squat. It just unmasks and amplifies hidden flaws. What am I missing? Yeah, what am I missing? Mark P. The capacity of the economy is shrinking and being starved to feed this imaginary financialization. I think that's where you're getting with. Why do the wealthy want a bigger share of less? You answered your own question. They want a bigger share of less. They don't care if you get it. They just want to have it. Short term. Garnome, you're right. Trump is controlled. His chief of staff was DHS secretary, right? That shareholder talking Kelly is a gatekeeper. That's BB Hammer. D. Scully, a political scientist will not look at our situation as a failure. It is a win for the right. You need to step back and see the chessboard. JT, toppling a democracy is a success for the right. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I need to think about that one. That's interesting. Yeah. I like that. Scully, I like that. That's interesting. I like that. Because I think you're pinning it on this point that the right, for the most part, is just in the bag for the rich. And government is an edifice that stands between the rich fucking over everybody else. It's the balancer of sorts. It's the thing that allows society to try to push back against the plutocrats, the plutocratic forces in a society. If the right is able to undermine that and topple that particular government, then the right, for the most part, has done their job. The rich get free reign. Yeah, if you destroy the edifice that's allowed you to control that aspect of your society, then yeah, you can make a point that it's a win. That's interesting. Interesting. That is an interesting idea. I like it. Yes, BB, an initial claim against Flynn came out as DHS. Now Trump is throwing him to the wolves. Oh yeah, he threw him under the bus. He threw him under the bus big time. August Cyber9. Mainstream media quashes all the energy out of masses to protest. Yeah. It doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. It really doesn't. Rob Illinois, what's wrong with war? Doesn't everyone here want jobs? Stop making the manufacturing of bombings and guns a bad thing. Stop making those things a bad thing. I mean, fuck, man. People need jobs, right? Kicker with my dog, Rob Illinois. My job is war related, man. My job is war related. Hey, you, hi. Dax, that has been known since before I was born. It only makes sense. Garnome, Trump is turning out to be a DHS puppet. What? Trump is a big, tough man at his own, is a business. He's a successful businessman. He's been doing business his entire life. He's an honorable guy who just cares about business and the working man. And he's in that office. He's fighting back. He's fighting back against the globalists. He's fighting the globalists. He's fighting the globalists. How dare you, sir, say that he's a puppet of anything? How dare you say he's a puppet of anything? He's his own man. He's a self-made millionaire. He wasn't beholden to all of the other people, so he could just get in that office and he can just fuck about and do good things for America first. I've always said that Republicans and Democrats are evil and money grabbers, but liberals and conservatives can debate and bring the facts. Those who are party-driven are blind to facts and don't care. Agreed, Devon. Agreed. Divine Mead, I agree with you. And I've made that argument so many times. In fact, I think my last 2 videos was on the exact same thing. Both of these parties are a problem. It's not one or the other. People are so entrapped into this idea that this 2-party system. So it's like, all right, I either support one or the other, Pepsi and Coke. Here's my range of debate that's fed to me by the mainstream media. It doesn't go beyond this range of debate. And if somebody like RT comes out, we're just going to shut RT up. We're going to shut him up. Yeah. Yeah, Devon, you're right. Both parties are the problem. Same corporate masters, mostly young assets, great. Civil disobedience. He's taking on the deep state civil disobedience. Bob Ramirez says, Star Trek Murder Universe is the one where Hillary won. Oh, that's a deep joke that I don't know how many people is going to get, Bob. I don't know how many people is going to get that joke. That joke is funny on so many levels. So in Star Trek, the mirror universe, there's... Fuck, this is philosophical to some degree. There is no God. So if there is no God, all the universes are relative to one another. Now in Star Trek universe, there is a God. We know there's a God in Star Trek universe. It is the writers of the show. So the writers of the show, when they crafted this, there was one specific universe. It was the Star Trek universe. That was the main universe. So from the standpoint of the on-viewers of the show, the Star Trek universe is the main universe of Star Trek. There is a mirror universe in Star Trek, where Spock has this cool beard. He was a badass, but a bad guy. Captain Kirk was a bad guy. He was a maniac. He was an animal. And for the most part, the Enterprise and everything else, there was this alternate version of all of these things with a completely different history of Star Trek and everything else. The Mirror Universe was a dark universe. It was a dark version of Star Trek. Even in Deep Space Nine, the regular series, all those. The Mirror Universe was a darker version of that world. So the joke that Bob has required me to chop a lot of wood to explain, good job, Bob, is Hillary Clinton won the Mirror Universe of Star Trek, meaning the hellscape that is that Mirror Universe of Star Trek was included a Hillary Clinton win. That's a fucking hilarious joke. I love that, Bob. I love that. I love that. I love that. The Spock beard is badass. Yeah, the Spock beard. Conviction politician is almost a slur these days. It's hard to find. It's hard to find. Damn, Hillary Rodham Clinton murder universe. Wow. Nobody said a murder universe. They said alternate universe. Mirror universe. Yeah, they say mirror. You misread. You misread. You misread. Mirror. Boris 100. I get the Star Trek joke. Yeah, Boris, but I don't know how many other people get it. That's fucking awesome. Civil Disobedience. Great episode. Yes, it was a great episode. BB Hammer, Garden Gnome, DHS 911. Creation, Domestic Police Intel Force. Yes. You know, what's wild about it, when you look back at the Soviet operations in regards to like internal intelligence, the way they would spy on the citizens. When you look at Russia, meaning Vladimir Putin, the stuff that WikiLeaks put out showing how Russia was spying on the citizens of Russia. If you're being honest, if you're being very honest, in your silent moments, 3 a.m. in the morning with your God and just you, and you think about that stuff, how do you make a distinction between what they were doing in regards to spying to the people in that country versus what they do here? They were doing an illegal spying operation, and when Edward Snowden found out, they tried to lock up Snowden other than dealing with the fact that they were spying on each and every person in this country, including the telecommunications. How do you define distinction in this way? How do you find distinction in this way? Tabitha Enriquez, they were space pirates, right? I don't remember if they were space pirates. I don't remember. Fair enough, I'm going blind. It's okay, Dimitri. It's okay. It's okay. We are Russia. I didn't say we were Russia, but there are parallels and there are correlations in the way that the USS and the United States are pursuing these things. Gardenome, yes, DHS is following the KGB model, and now we have this advanced tech. Yeah. It is slightly disturbing. Like, it gets more disturbing when you realize if you had something like Occupy Wall Street again, where all of these people rose up, the United States government now has the capacity to put military on home soil. Thanks, Obama, the National Defense Authorization Act. Do you believe that Donald Trump would give the order to put military on United States soil if something like Occupy Wall Street sprung up? And with the power to put people in black sites, again, thanks, Obama, do you believe Donald Trump would use it? Mind you, it's most likely we're already using that power. You just haven't heard about it. But do you think Donald Trump would use it? Do you think they would give the order to shoot an American citizen? Well, again, Obama has already killed 2, including 1 being a kid. But do you think they would give that order? That's a fascinating and terrifying thing. Because ultimately you have this thing where it's a game of chicken between the government and the population, with the government insisting that the government has lost all legitimacy whatsoever, pressing this non-violent expression of disdain, with the government itself using the police and military apparatus to put down that public in the most violent and extreme means that it possibly can. It's change. What do you want for change? I don't know why everyone dislikes Hillary. I mean, she just wanted to undermine the sovereignty, privatize Social Security, and privatize and dismantle out many social services like libertarians. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's funny. That's funny. Call him a terrorist, call it a day. Keith Williams, yes. Yeah, that's the point. A terrorist doesn't have a meaning. You're against our interests. Terrorists. Yeah. It's anytime they put into law fuzzy items, like this thing of terrorists. How are you putting that into law? How are you defining what it means to be a terrorist in this way? That's anything. That's perceptual. That's a choice of the government to make that determination on what that is, and that's a terrifying thing. That's a terrifying thing. It changes with the government. Jeremy Polanski, Cobb Wall. DHS is hiring independent intelligence contractors to conduct operations. In the Africa Live forum, one of the audience members was one of the contractors and spoke during a Q&A. Yeah, Gardner, thank you for turning me on to that. I watched half of that. Dax Jacobs, software pirates supporting terrorism. Remember that from a few years ago. I remember software pirates. I don't remember that one. I remember Anonymous kind of intruding on this stuff, like when they kind of exploded onto the scene. I guess they might have been called this kind of terrorist thing by the government because the government didn't like them. Yeah. How can they be independent when DHS pays them? I think they were independent before DHS. I think he's trying to say they don't work for DHS. They just work from a contract basis. It's like I work for my company. I am affiliated with my company and I work with my particular company. Say I own my own little software company, but my company hired me as a contractor to work on some particular task. Technically, I don't necessarily work at the company, but technically I work for the company as a contract basis. That's where I took it. They call people ran over in Virginia terrorists. Yeah. That's weird. James Beliley. Jamal, listen here. Here's the thing. I live in New York. We are going to get fucked by this tax plan. Yes, you are. Your taxes are going up, buddy. Our state and local deductions are gone. The tax plan is barbaric to the 9th degree. Yeah, he's going after you. And here's the thing. New York didn't vote for Donald Trump. Neither did California. So Donald Trump gives two shits about New York and California. The fact that your taxes are going to go up, Donald Trump does not care one iota. One iota. He does not care. August Sabanot. The mainstream media as a ministry of truth. Yes, agreed. Has put the masses to sleep. Yes, agreed. Just as their ad clients wanted, ad clients match directly to politics, big money contributions that collude with mainstream media to extract rents from the masses. Augur, you say things sometimes that renews my faith in humanity. Agreed. Keith Williams. Independent contractors aren't as restricted legally. Yes, agreed. Yes, agreed. Yeah, there's certain legal restrictions depending upon how that person is defined in this way. Yeah. Gardner. The issue. Thank you. The issue is contractors are paid to produce results. Who gives a shit about the social consequences of those results? Divine Mead. We are the new Roman Empire. We are fighting a barbarian force all over the place. We have become a Christian nation founded on secularism. We crucify the enemies in Guantanamo and driven by resources. Well, I think you're trying to say resource acquisition. Love you, brother. I voted Stein. I voted Stein too, James. I voted Stein too. Just popped on, but want to say that this may bring the revolution quicker. Laurie Mountain Girl, I saw this and I thought to myself, this is fucking horrible. Everything up to this point has been fucking horrible. Things are going according to schedule. That's the way I thought. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going to take place in 2018 and 2020. What I would say is, the worse things get, the more people that it hurts, the more people that have the potential of waking out of the fucking bubble that they're walking around in. If that means that people in New York and California are getting hit with massive amounts of taxes, what faction of New York and California are just walking around voting Democrats? Will that break those people out of that monotony of sorts? What percentage of those people are Republicans? Would that break them out of the monotony? You know, what about the rest of the planet or rest of the world? People who lose their health insurance. You have 20 million people who are going to lose their health insurance under this idea. So, again, what faction of those people, what percentage becomes awake based on the factors that take place, based on the way that they're going to be hurt and the things that take place? When Donald Trump and the Republicans go after Social Security and those people realize that Donald Trump lied to them, what faction of those people are going to wake up? This is fucking horrible. Maybe fucking awesome. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Bob Ramirez said, hey, they have to do something to elevate Pence. Oh, Jesus Christ. I know people want to get rid of Trump, but Pence is... I have to be honest. I think I'm more terrified of Pence than Trump. You have Democrats doing their best to impeach Trump. And it's almost like you understand what's behind Trump, right? And you understand that the conflict that Republicans have with Trump, they hate his guts. They despise him. Pence comes in that office and they go asleep. All of this angst and ire goes to sleep. The media's feud goes to some degree away. Pence keeps their illusions intact. Pence is worse. Pence is worse. I think Pence is much worse. I think Trump is a wild card, but I think Pence is potentially worse because I think Pence will be effective. Trump is so grotesque. That's a plus. That's a plus. I honestly think that's a plus. Pence will cut another $1.5 trillion of taxes for the rich. Yeah, agreed. Dax Jacobson agreed. Yeah, and they'll let him. BB Hammer, my sister's argument for removing Trump is that Pence will be easier to beat in 2020. Your sister is insane. I don't know your sister. I'm not saying she's mentally ill, but I'm saying she's mentally ill. I'm sorry. Trump is easier to beat in 2020. Pence is not. I don't think Pence is not. Well, hopefully he's part of Trump's conspiracy and get arrested as well. There's no conspiracy. Religious fanatic James Bell, Garnone, they don't want to impeach Trump. They are happy to use him as a pinata for the next 3 years. This is a circus. I think so too, to some degree. I think they're true believers, though, Garnone. I think some of those people are true believers. Mainstream media has been the most effective form of soma. Brave new world. Apathy rules the day. Apathy does rule the day. I think it's also this thing of yeah, it's propaganda. I mean, you have somebody telling you something for the last, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life. And ultimately, you trust what's given you because that's what's given you. And the world conforms to the things that they're saying to some degree. It's hard to break out it's hard to look over it. It's hard to look over it. I agree, Augur. You're saying too many things I agree with, Augur. BB Hammer, my sister is indeed insane. Thank you. I will tell her you said that. Your sister said she was mentally ill. Dominic Buselli, I'll change my name to Barbarian. Thanks for the suggestion. Dax Jacobson, Pence is America's dad. Yes, he is. Do you remember in that debate with Tim Kaine? Tim Kaine had one job: tie Pence to Trump. Everything that Donald Trump has ever said in his life, tie Pence to it. And Tim Kaine failed in that task. Mike Pence, everything is fun. It was a funny interview. Everything that Kaine said, for the most part, was true because it was easy. It was a cornucopia of stuff that he could throw at him. And Mike Pence, like some old grandfather that seems completely affable, seems like a nice guy, sits there and shakes his head. He does a Pence head shake. He frowns slightly and just shakes his head. It is an awesome interview to watch. I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody do that in my life. When Donald Trump, he says he wants to grab him by the pussy. I don't. That's not the case. That's not the case. And he just shakes his head. And that entire interview, it worked. At the end of it, when they looked at the polls, and Mike Pence's job was, don't let him land a hand. Don't let him land a glove on you. Don't let him land a glove on you. And he stuck, and he moved, and he danced like nobody's business. And at the end of it, the polls looked at, many of the polls said Pence won the debate, which is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And guess what? I was one of those people who said Pence didn't look too bad in this debate. Pence didn't look too bad in this debate. That's sad. That's sad. That's immensely sad. For the record, I don't believe there is anything to Trump in Russia, but you can impeach him with 32 other ways, such as starting 11 businesses in Saudi, and then gave $10 billion in weapons. Hey, Devon Mead, fair enough. Corruption, I'm in. Corruption, I'm in. Corruption, I'm in. I'm in that line with you. Yes, corruption. Fair enough. The Trump in Russia, no. Trump in Russia, no. No, no. If you didn't go after Bush after he invaded the country, killed 1 million people on the pretense of a lie, including torture, you can't touch Trump for Trump in Russia. There's no way. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. Forsaken companion. Pence is Hillary plus Cruz. Trump is horrible and scary. Pence is worse. He's all the crazy with the competence. Agreed. That's what people miss. Like I know they're scared of Trump in this thing because they look at him as a wild card. Agreed. Trump is a wild card. But Trump is the nasty, disgusting face of what this government does around the world in reality. It's in reality. It's not the soothing singing of Obama. It is the grim reality of what we do and how we export power across the world. In addition to here, the policies. Here, the war that we've waged on the poor and the unions and the middle class. Yeah, that's what he is. Mike Pence is somebody's dad. Mike Pence is somebody's granddad. There is a massive difference between the goblin that's snarling with the worms coming out of his face versus somebody's granddad. Somebody's granddad. If they impeach Trump, it would only be paper. He won't be removed from office. I don't know, man. I think you have true believers. I'm scared of true believers, man. I'm scared of true believers. In every capacity, I don't care what the capacity is. I'm scared of true believers. True believers they are a force to behold. Like you see this socialist in the well of Congress losing his shit rabid at the capitalists. He's raging at the capitalists. This is the thing that he's always wanted in his life. I just want to be in the well of Congress, embracing the socialists, raging out at the capitalists. He's a true believer. They're terrified of him. They're terrified. I love him because he's a true believer in this capacity. They're terrified of him. Well, what about this? You have some of these people who actually really want to impeach Trump. And some of these people are immensely true believers. And they think Pence will be a better option in that office. And I think those people are insane. They're just scared. They're just scared. They're just terrified. There is one catch. North Korea. I do think Trump, in the way that he's going about North Korea, could accidentally start a war. I do think that. That part bothers me. Real talk, Jamal. What is your opinion of Bernie getting chummy with former Clinton Obama foreign policy advisor? Foreign policy was Bernie's weakness, and if he's running in 2020, this is a problem. Now, Rob, I haven't seen this. I'll look this up. I haven't seen this. I saw a speech that Bernie Sanders gave talking about foreign policy. I have not seen anything with him talking about Obama's, their ilk in this way. In that speech that he gave on foreign policy, he kind of made this point of not having this interventionist government, going this idea of toppling democracies and everything else and focusing on the home front. I will look up Sanders and Clinton foreign policy advisors. I'll look it up. I will look it up. I will look it up. Bernie is vulnerable to deep state steering. I don't know about that one. I think he's a true believer, Keith. I could be wrong, but I think he's a true believer. M99. North Korea is a CIA proxy state. Bob Ramirez, I agree. True believers are convenient tools. I didn't say that, Bob. I didn't say that, Bob. That was never uttered out of my mouth. Shirley Vick, Dax Jacobs, I think it is Pence. Yeah, I do too. Gardner Mo, the true believers are not in control of the DNC. Therefore, we need not to be concerned with them in regards to what the DNC does. Fair enough. Agreed. Fair enough. Dominique. The true believers are not in charge of the DNC. Let me make sure. I think Gardner might be trying to slide something in. The true believers are not in control of the DNC. Therefore, we don't need to be concerned with them in regards to what the DNC does. I think I agree with that. Dominic Buscemi. Every time I hear true believers, I think of Randy Newman's song Dark Matter. He's right on point with that song. I got to look that song up. So who will take a dive? Sanders, Bob Ramirez, the cynic. So who will, quote unquote, take a dive? Sanders be propping up in the 2020 primary. Let me read that. I think I'm gonna read it the way you're trying to say it. So who will take a dive Sanders be propping up in the 2020 primary? I'm not answering that question. Sanders is not gonna be propping up anybody. Sanders is gonna win that primaries. Hey you, hi. Bernie is dead to me. He is a politician, but is better than nothing for progressives. Thank you. Some issues can be passed through if it ever happens. Thank you. Hey you, hi. I'll take it. Divine Me. Isn't it sad that YouTubers or me on Facebook have to tell the news instead of the media? It still blows my mind that we do what professionals are supposed to do. Agreed. Dax Jacobson. Hey you, hi. Bernie is a zombie. Will be better than most others. Yeah, great. Shirley Vic Jamal, this is what Dax responded to Mike Pence. Looks like those children from movies of Village of the Damned. That's that's awesome. That's awesome. I like Sanders. I think Sanders is a gracious, I think he's trying to say gracious type figure. He's trying to push the bounds of the system without stepping outside of it. James Biley, yes, that's true. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have with him. They want him to step outside the bounds of the system. Luca Clemente, Bob Ramirez says merciless. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He absolutely is. X Factor 541. It took inadequacy and conservatism from Woodrow, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover, leading to the Great Depression before we awoke to get FDR and JFK. Hopefully, we'll get Bernie and some similar in 2020. X Factor, I agree with you. When somebody was talking about FDR, you know, you kind of make this point, like, you understand that before FDR came along, there was a lot of duds. There were a lot of duds. One died in office, and the one came behind and wasn't much better. Take a Dive Sanders is a good one. That one is funny. That one is funny. That one is funny. Garnome, what I mean is we have sharks in control of the DNC, not people who are delusional enough to think that Trump poses a real threat. Those in control of the DNC know the Russian narrative is nonsense, for example. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. You're trying to say that these people aren't true believers. Ultimately, the people in the DNC are just functioning as political actors who are taking a task or taking a position purely from the standpoint of politics. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Drew Papa, get money out of politics, the rest will attend to itself. I don't know what the rest will attend to itself, but definitely get money out of politics. BB Hammer, citizen journals dispel the myth that you have to be authority or expert to report on the news. BB Hammer, agreed. Agreed. James Bly, Gracious Gius Gratius is an ancient Roman politician, but yes, he's gracious too. I have to look that up. I have to look that one up. You're expanding my historical context. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. The Gratius brothers ruined Rome. Oh. Augur. We have some sharks on this page. You know what I mean? In the best of ways. It's like, yeah, it's like Gracious was so-and-so. He ruined Rome. They ruined Rome. Jeremy Shellman, does anyone really believe we can solve the world's problems by being gracious? Please step aside, Deep State. Thank you. Jeremy Shellman, I have no such belief. I have no such belief. When I was talking to Firestone, I was like, no, you have to break the back of the people that are in your way in this regard. You have to break the back. I don't believe in this kumbaya shit. You move the ball forward. You win by winning. How do you win? That's usually what it boils down to. How do you win? What are the things you need to attack in order to kind of draw things in your direction? And beyond that, once you get to where you want to get to, how do you instantiate your gains? Like, how do you nail down your gains in a way where you tighten the screws so those gains aren't necessarily undone? That's the catch. That's really the ultimate question that we're trying to have. How do you change the hegemonic view of the world in this regard to make human beings more important than markets? That's when things will attend to themselves. Until you get to that point, things will not attend to themselves. You're always in this existential struggle. Keith Williams, I must break you. Yes. I have this idea of Bane breaking Batman's back. That's the image I have in my head. Human beings rarely rise to the occasion unless they must. Things usually have to get very bad for people to wake up. Yeah, you're talking about the Star Trek thing where they had multiple wars. They had, this kind of global catastrophic ecological catastrophe that the planet and everything else couldn't solve, at which point they say, okay, we'll grow up. It took them to be at the brink of disaster for them to finally change. I don't want to be at that point, because that's a fictional universe, and I in no way believe that human beings will change at the precipice. I think Look, it's a moot point. The society is going to change one way or the other. It's not going to have a choice. So it's not going to have a choice. All right, I am going to end this. We've gone for an hour and a half, and in my head, I was going to go for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to call this a day. Yeah, guys, thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up. I know it's random, and I've said it before. I need to nail down hours when I do these things. I gotta be honest, I hate nailing down the hours, though. I hate nailing down the hours. I like this thing of, oh, I want to do a video. Let me do a video. As opposed to, you know what it is? It's the difference between being on a diet versus ending up on a diet. If that makes sense. I always have this thing called catching the wind or catch the wave. If I say I am not going to eat X, I am going to have that taste for X all day. As opposed to ending up on a day where you just don't end up eating X and you just kind of go with it. You just kind of ride the wave. In this case, I do bad at saying I am going to be there at 8 o'clock to do a video, because I guarantee you there's going to be a day when I'm ready at 6, and then by the time it gets to 8, I'm not going to feel like it. So, Bob Ramirez, when will you see the Oberman Franken Chevrolet? Oberman Franken Chevrolet. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Robert McGabera Unger, political philosopher, says progressives need to be able to have advancement without relying on disaster. I agree, Mark. I agree. I agree. Fuck. All right, Mark. I agree, but you know, there's a reason for it, right? Like, how do you get people to care about other people outside of having something disastrous to push people in a direction? And this is not just left, by the way. Towers are hit. Okay, towers are hit. Now we need to do something about the towers being hit. I have an idea. Let's invade a country that had nothing to do with the towers being hit, and let's murder 1 million people, and let's try to export American power throughout the world under the guise of terrorism. Let's try that. Let's try that. The left and the right does this. Both do it. Both do it. It's not one or the other. It's both. Power is taken. One of the easiest ways for power to be taken is saying, I have an emergency. We have an emergency. We have something that we need to get done. We don't have a choice. We wouldn't do this. We wouldn't do this. But we don't have a choice. And so we need you to get behind us to do this. We need to give, X number of trillions of dollars to the financial industries. What? Not giving 20 trillion. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We have to give them these trillions of dollars to prop up this failed economic system. We don't have a choice. We have to invade this country. We don't have a choice. Hey, they sunk our ship. We have to attack them. We have to put troops in those countries. These things are properties of the left and properties of the right. It's properties of power itself. It's not just the left or the right. The dilemma for the left in all of this is, how do you get people to care about stuff that doesn't necessarily directly affect them, but that will affect them as overall, if that makes sense. It's like, allowing people to go to school makes your society better. How do you translate that to other people? How do you get people out of this idea that I got mine, fuck everyone else? That's the dilemma of the left. Getting people to actually have this association with other people and to care. How do you get empathy into the political process? How do you do it? You may have 20 or 30%. Ultimately, I think you just need a majority. But how do you do it? And it just so happens that disaster is one of those things that allows you to drive the conversation and pull people in a direction. I would just make this point. That if you're going to have some kind of disaster, if you're going to have some major thing that takes place, you better instantiate your wins. You better instantiate your wins. Bush invades the country. He says they're terrorists. We have a war on terror. This thing where we're supposed to get rid of weapons of mass destruction became this all-out war on terror, this amorphous war that has no way of ending, and that ultimately we create our own monster so it perpetuates itself. Bush used a pretext of something that took place in this country, and he used that pretext to exploit U.S. military and U.S. power all throughout the world under the guise of fighting terrorism. This was a right-wing plan in order to kind of pushed us and export this stuff out. They had already wrote up the plan. What is it? Plan to revitalize America or to rebuild American defenses or something. But it was a right-wing agenda. It was a right-wing plan. It was a plan that the right wing came up with that they wanted to do. And the moment that the pretext came up, they jumped on it, and that's what they did. Oops. We didn't mean to spend all this trillions of dollars. I know we just said it was going to be a few billion and it would pay for itself, but oops, $7 trillion. Oops, we've been at war for 16 years. Who knew? Who knew? They took policy that fundamentally changed America's position and disposition to the rest of the world. Now you can say that's their way of instantiating their gains, meaning this is what we wanted to do and this is the quagmire we want to create to force the next few presidents to have to deal with this particular issue. If the left is going to take advantage of something that's big, the left needs to instantiate their gains. They need to make sure those things are built into the system itself. Stop this struggle, man. It's all I'm saying is the left needs to go beyond this thing of looking back. I hear people all the time. Auger even said it, saying, you know, has this ever existed before in our history or whatever else? It has nothing to do with what existed before in our history. What do you want to accomplish? That's your question. What do you want to accomplish? What are the things that you believe are most important to you to form a society? And you work towards your society getting to that point. I'm not going to say about hook or by crook. I will say you work in getting your society to that point, instantiating your gains in a way that those things can't be undone. Fuck incrementalism. Fuck incrementalism. That's not the point. The point is to do things that work and to move this country in a direction. And I would make this case that wins beget wins. Meaning the more wins you get, the more political clout you get to keep going in the way that you're going. The goal is to win. Not this existential struggle, not this back and forth. The goal is to win. The goal is to win. Break their fingers. Don't let them claw back the gains that you make in regards to any kind of New Deal policy. Break their fingers. This thing of worker co-ops, that's part of breaking the fingers, getting rid of this idea of the elite in your society, and at the very least, edging them off in regards to their political clout, destroying these campaign finance laws, meaning completely disallowing Congress or completely disallowing plutocrats to use their cash into the political process itself, essentially putting a glass around the politics. There are things that you can do to break their fingers so they can't necessarily claw back their gains. I'm saying that needs to be the goal. Anti-corruption, that needs to be the goal. Go after them. They've been going after you for the past 50, 60 years. You need to be explicit in going after them in this sense of class. Yeah, it's a big fucking deal. You need to understand that you're in a war. This is not one of those things where, you know, you've been conned by media into pretending that all of us have the same goals and objectives. We do not. We do not. There is a massive difference between you and the government to which supposedly represents you. Do you believe that Obama had the exact same interests as you? Do you believe that when he's pushing the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that the things that he values and agrees with are the same things that you yourself would value and agree with? Let me disabuse you of any illusion that they were. They are not. They are not. There is a massive difference in the things that you want and the things that somebody who's in the top percent wants. Do you think these guys who are trying to destroy net neutrality give two shits that your cable bill will go up? They don't. Your cable bill going up is additional money and revenue in their pockets. And having the power to shut certain people up, certain things that they don't necessarily like that may adversely affect their interests, will be also part of that process. In the same way shutting people up that Google or that Twitter or that Facebook that go against their political interests, shutting those people up. We do not have the same interests. And it's time for Americans, particularly the 90%, to understand that we don't have the same interests and function in a way that's unified and making sure that our interest is best served. Currently, it is not. They are in Congress giving $1.5 trillion to the wealthy while putting that money on the debt itself. Think about that. That's fucking amazing. These deficit hawks putting they're gutting the middle class, including graduate students, healthcare. They're gutting all of these things in order to give people who don't need it massive amounts of cash that they don't need. It is fucking amazing. It is fucking amazing. So if we're having a conversation about what's fair, and we're having this conversation about what should the left do, I'd say the left needs to break their fingers. If any gain that you make, such as the New Deal, is going to be clawed back, you need to break the fingers of the hand that was going to try to claw those gains back. That's the way you create this thing where you don't have this consistent existential struggle between trying to find goods and services and making sure that people, those people have the things that they need in their society, versus these rich, greedy, plutocrat fucks who don't necessarily, who have this mental illness that they feel that they need to have more in every situation, even if that means taking it off of people who don't have anything already. This tax bill mentally angers me. Mentally angers me. JT, you missed my whole point. And looking back, I have 200 characters. What did I miss? What did I miss? I hope I didn't misrepresent you. Let me look back. This is how Jamal talks in my sleep. I do talk in my sleep like this. It's been 2 hours, man. Take a break. Yeah, it's not been 2 hours. Hour 35 minutes. But yes, I am. Jamal needs intervention. I need intervention? What? Intervention for what? Jamal, give us an encore. Yeah, I did. Some of this stuff aggravates me. It does. I'm sorry. Some of it aggravates me. Fucking aggravates me. BB Hammer. MM9. Conservatism by definition. Preserving things we value, not destroying others and ourselves along the way. Agreed. You can make a case that my position is a conservative position. I agree, Dex. Jamal's been 2 hours. Take a break. Yeah. BB, preach. BB. Oh, right. He's a bladder of a man. Dax, he has a bladder of a man. Whoa, I don't know what that means. He has a bladder of a man? I don't see most Republicans as conservatives. I see them as fucking mentally ill. Or greedy assholes that are completely unempathetic. Check out Truth Factory vids about NN. Anomaly does a good job too. There are other sources. NN isn't cut and dry. Oh, net neutrality equals free speech. Net neutrality does not equal free speech. George Papag, I'm sorry, it doesn't. It takes away free speech. Oh, right, net neutrality, yes, it equals free speech. They're trying to get rid of net neutrality, I'm sorry. Night's Rain, late, but the irony of ABC reporting is it mimics Rachel Maddow tax report that instead of nefarious results, you end up making Trump look better. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Fucking goblin, you're making him look better. Okay, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I said that was wrong. I'm sorry. If I completely missed your point, I am completely sorry. JT, you missed my whole point about looking back. Looking back. All right. Let's look back. Let's look back. Stay on topic. I'm trying to. By left, you don't mean the actual left, do you? You're referring to the Democratic Party. The left protested that war. Yeah, I mean Democrats. I probably should define that, right? Faux left versus left. Let's see. Check out Unger 101 here on YouTube. Very interesting. He collaborated with Cornel West on progressivism in America. By the way, I will check that out. As much as I bitch about human nature, the desire to care for others is just hardwired into us as other impulses. The problem is that we are living in a giant group and it ends up suppressing empathy. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I agree with that one. Gardner. No, they promised bread with no fields to fulfill. Oh, you're talking about Rome, bread and circus. The oligarchs had gotten rich off of the Punic Wars and had gobbled up all the land, so the choice to give the people was to agitate for reform or continue business as usual. The corn dough led to more wars to support those promises. Bread and circus, you got to find a way to get bread, so you end up taking wars in order to pull that resources back to the country. Kind of like this thing with Britain and India. All right. YouTubers get a free travel urinal. No, they don't. No, they don't. Exercise that referred to history or contemporary societal constructs was merely to claim a black swan. It was to DRW remind the fact that the political movement, even Jesus achieved what you're envisioning. Sleep is the cousin of death. It's a cousin of death. It's 11:30 here now. It's 12:30 here. You're an hour ahead. But we're an hour ahead. Net neutrality attacks the replacement Twitter Mastodon, the replacement Facebook, Dysphoria. They have federated services that are opposed to monolith. Jamal, start a vlog channel. This is a vlog channel. Oh, you mean on the thing? Put my videos on the thing. I do. I mean, Patreon kind of does that. I guess I can put my videos on Patreon. But yeah, I guess so. Barbara Nair says it's not for Jamal. Luca Clemente. What's not for Jamal? Oh, YouTube Murals. Yeah, it's not for me. I don't need one. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right. I'm going to end this. I'm seriously going to end it this time. Somebody said, Mrs. Thomas, you get a $5 coupon every time you say you're going to end it. You don't do it within 5 minutes. Mark, I'm not very well informed. Inform me. Yeah, Mark P knows his stuff. He definitely knows his stuff. Alright, guys. I am ending this. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. And of course, you can always support through Patreon. And I suppose I've been doing so many live videos now. You can always support through Super Chat. So, thank you for showing up. I appreciate everyone's comments. Luca Clemente said, I'll see you in 15. You might. Depends on the story. I'm going to go check on Miss Thomas, make sure she's okay. But, yeah, guys. Thank you guys for coming out. I totally appreciate it. I enjoy it. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye.